Alright, hello, how we doing? It's Jack here from You and Again Gravity. We're going to talk a little bit about our latest single, Paper Bodies, and the moments in the song, because I think it's the moments that make it interesting, so we're going to see what we do to create those moments. Alright, first things first, what do I mean by moments? Well, I mean generally the differences between different sections of the song, how many layers there are going on, the kind of the timbre and the feel and the loudness of all of those things together. So you're creating kind of like a little journey all the way through the song. I think there's a few different moments in this that we can examine. So let's do that, and let's start with the piano because that's where the whole song starts. While this is happening, we've got quite a soft section going on overall, so there's some faint guitar stuff that you might be able to hear if you're listening really closely. That just adds a bit of interest. It kind of highlights some key notes. Once we're a little bit further into the song and there's a bit more going on, I actually want to double up the piano here, and this is an easy way of keeping it relevant by adding an octave up line that's doing essentially exactly the same thing. You can hear it here. We also have our guitars that change in the background here to something where we're doing left and right guitars that are doing exactly the same thing just to build up texture. It's actually quite rare that we have both guitars on the left and right doing the same thing, but this is one of those situations where we don't want it to get too complex. They're actually playing like half the harmonic rhythm of the piano, so it's all lined up, but it doesn't want to get too complicated. There's a really simple idea coming up here where we just drop out the bass guitar. So you can hear in the track that we have essentially most instruments playing at one point, and then as we move into the pre-chorus section, we drop out that bass, which takes a lot of the foundation out. See, makes sense. We also do that again. It kind of comes back in and then drops out just before we go into this chorus section. And then that's where we drop with all of our layers at once. So let's break down what those layers are. Probably the biggest one is the kind of rhythm section, the two guitars playing different things on either side, and then some bass to extend those chords and ground. Now, on top of that, we actually have a relatively fiddly guitar line, which is playing like an interesting little tune over the top. And that's because the rest of the rhythm section is doing kind of straight chords, just strumming. There's nothing too complex going on. So we can start comparing things here because the first half of the chorus and the second half of the chorus have a bit of a different feel, rhythmically speaking as well. And that's what we want to differentiate, and that's how we create these kind of different moments in the song. So as I said, the first half of the chorus is pretty straight. The second has got much more of a kind of rhythmically start-stop feel on this rhythm section. What we do here is, because we want to kind of offset that and make sure that it doesn't get too complicated with all of the lead stuff going on as well, we change the lead to be doing kind of more long-held notes, more arpeggiated stuff. This is it. You don't want too many things fighting together, and really the focus here should be on the vocals. There are quite a lot of vocal tracks in this song, which is, again, not that unusual for us, but there's a good few harmonies that we want to layer up, and you can hear those here.
Wait, I've barely had time to think, and I'm already partisan.
Once we get to that second half of the chorus, we're going to start doing a little bit different stuff. Again, we've simplified the lead guitar line. We've kind of made the rhythm a bit more important and more interesting at this point. So there's a bit of call and response which happens in the vocals to mimic this change in intensity.
Scissors, cut, scallop tape, sewing cat.
That's a fun thing to do. It's a great way to add a bit of interest when you've got the time in the studio to do this kind of back and forth vocal stuff. And we also have, you may have noticed, like a really horrible clashing note in there. Very deliberate, this push and pull. We do that a lot with kind of notes that you wouldn't necessarily want to put together. Like that. But that helps because when it resolves at the end of the vocal line, it's a lot more, has more feeling and a bit more emotion to it. Now, After that chorus, we know that we want to head back into the verse, which has got a very different feel. So we take it kind of one step further and basically cut out almost everything and really simplify the next section so it's very quiet and a very different feel. And that way when we get back into the verse, we can feel like we've kind of progressed again.
It's just the rules that we have.
So after that, we can bring back in a couple more layers, a couple more double sections, and that kind of gives us a bit more of a base to build on when we start getting into the heavier stuff in the second verse, where we want to reprise that first verse, but we want to make it a bit more interesting and a bit more different. And again, tell a story, so we can start bringing instruments back in. We want to get ready for the baritone section that's coming up, because that's the different feel, and that's the bit that gives this section a bit more energy. And of course we've got more gritty, more distorted here, so what do we add over the top of that? Screams. Three layers of screams, because why not put high and low screams together? It makes sense, right? And the last part to look at, I think, is the comparison between the second chorus and the third chorus, which have the same kind of bass line, but they are differently structured. They've got different elements, different rhythm going on, and we want to change up the layers around them. We really want to create quite a big crescendo that leads right up to the end of the song before that fade out. So a good place to start would be the rhythm section again, and really it's actually doing exactly the same thing, because we want to, these have to sound like the same chorus again, but the way that we've changed the feel is just by changing the lead guitar to like this held tremolo line, which really makes it feel like it's doing half time. Actually, nothing has changed in the rhythm section at all. What we're doing as well by having this as almost a more relaxed feel is we're leaving space for all of the vocals that are happening. There's quite a lot in this section. We've got a again like this kind of call and response, but we're doing it between gang vocals, which we don't use that much, but when we do, hopefully they're a bit more impactful. And then we've got screams as well. There's really no point during this chorus where there aren't vocals happening over the top of it. So we've got to make room for that in the other sections, but we've also got to make it sound different and sound like it's building.
And the vacant violent body says, Can you try to change your mind?
Now the final part of the final chorus in the song, we change the drums up. We have that kick on every single beat, really to push the energy up once more. Now you might notice on this repetition we actually have a major chord where we didn't have one before, and we had a very dissonant lead line for that guitar over the top of it. So we brought back that arpeggiated guitar, but obviously we've changed it to go with that major chord. And that works with the vocals as well. We're really building everything up as loud as it can be with as many sections as possible. And that brings us to the very end of the last chorus. We actually do the same thing we had done on a couple of previous choruses, which is to have these like start-stop stabs on the guitar. And that's because we know at the end of every one of these choruses we're going to drop the volume, we're going to drop all the sections down. That gives us room to change the texture a lot, and we're doing that here. We're going to drop out almost everything. We've just got the piano-led section once again. That brings us structurally back to feel like the start of the song, as it were, and we then also strip out the guitars, so they're doing something really simple at this point. They're basically trying to attract as little attention to themselves as possible, because the piano at this point can then start to noodle around a little more. Like that. And then of course we've got Andy on bass, who's also having a time of his life. And there you have it. There's really not that much to it when you break it all down. Each individual instrument's playing its own role, and we're trying to think holistically about the song structure as a whole. We're just dropping things out, putting some things back in, changing the way that people are playing stuff, thinking about other instruments within the song. And that gives you all of these different moments, and once you've strung enough of those moments together, you get something that feels like one big cohesive whole. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the track. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.